Today on the Tech Bytes podcast, sponsored by Juniper, we talk with a customer of Juniper's Apstra intent-based networking data center software. Our guest is Darko Petrovic. He is principal engineer at Advania, Iceland. Advania is an IT solutions company offering managed and professional services and IT infrastructure and integration. Darko, welcome to the podcast. So what drew your interest to Apstra's product?
First off, like you said, Advania is working for Advania managed service provider. We are one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in MSP in Iceland. Our main goal going with Apstra was we wanted to automate our data center as much as possible and go away from the traditional layer 2s that many data centers are having trouble in the past years. So we were looking at different solutions, vendors, even thinking about doing ourselves with some kind of automation with Ansible.
Okay, so you're looking for an automation solution. You maybe investigated a little bit of doing it yourself, but what was there something that about Apstra that you thought, oh wait, this is going to go better for us?
So the first impressions from Apstra I had a couple of years ago when I was doing my investigation about similar solutions that are out there, but it went to the side that Apstra is way more than and offering way more than other solutions and vendors there, just because the level of automation and the level that it's doing, the provisioning and the whole networking bits and pieces that are under the bonnet, it's so easy and it's effortless, basically effortless.
So what you've found is that putting Apstra into your managed services network, into the underlay of that data center environment, has really just reduced the friction about making changes, right?
Not even that. The margin of human error is minimal. So how the Apstra does that is it has basically every and each scenario that you can have in your data center. Yeah. And based on your inputs, the Apstra will going to calculate, is that feasible or not? If it's feasible, it's going to apply it on your network. It's like pre-applying the configuration. The Apstra calculates, is the links are okay, is the routing okay? And based on all that pre-calculated stuff, it expects some results when you commit that changes. So the human, when it's the engineer, when it's provisioning VLANs, VXLANs, or links, servers, new servers, it's basically 4 clicks to provision that.
So what you're saying is Apstra is actually sanity checking. If you're trying to make a configuration, I want this VLAN here to be connected to this VLAN, but it also needs to connect to this segment of the network. It's actually going to sanity check that everything that you want or you think you want to configure is actually possible.
Correct. Even the IPs, the VLANs, it's going to cross-check the VXLANs, the VLANs. It's going to complain if you're using the same VLAN.
Or the same IP addresses ranges or overlapping.
Correct.
That's really cool. What can I ask just for a second here? Because it's obviously, you as a managed service provider, you've got a choice of switches and you're probably operating it at a reasonable sort of scale. What sort of switches, physical switches did you go with?
So one of the huge elements that we wanted from our fabric is that we don't want to do vendor lock. That's especially important for the larger data centers when they have multiple vendors inside their network and juggling between the features, you know. So we wanted something that's going to give us the freedom of choice in the future years. If we don't like, or we are going to have a bad relationship at that moment with some other vendor, all right, we have an alternative. So it's giving us leverage, basically, in the negotiations for the underlay hardware. At this point, we went for the Dell, and with their enterprise Sonic distribution. Sonic is based on the FRR. So like the majority of vendors are, I know the VMware also uses it, Facebook. The Sonic is...
So Dell's open networking switches with the Sonic distribution that they've got, which is supported, right? Dell supports that. And then you're running Apstra on top of that. So
correct.
You've actually got...
not Apstra on top. Apstra is just, let's say, a controller. You know,
yeah.
So the operating system is Sonic, The Dell itself is shipping. So Dell has two flavors of operating systems. They have their stock operating system, OS 10 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is an enterprise grade for their operating system that's Sonic.
Okay, so you've got Dell Sonic underneath, and you've got some flexibility there because you could either replace the Dell hardware with another open switch running a Sonic. You could replace the Sonic with another OS. But more importantly, Apstra over the top here gives you the freedom to change the hardware underneath. I guess that the idea here is that Apstra is doing the provisioning of the switches for you. You're not using the command line or Excel spreadsheets or text files to configure them, right?
Nothing. So it's not just giving you freedom to change the hardware. It's you can keep the same topology, same IP, same everything. So everything is the same from your perspective, but the hardware you can swap. Of course, it's not that easy in the real world. In sense, you need good planning and migration scenario and everything. But at the bottom line, yeah, it's everything that you have, everything that's running right now, you can change and keep the same topology, same layer 3 configurations when you finish migrating to another vendor.
Okay, so I think that's something key to talk about is that what you're getting with Apstra is not just this sanity check, this help with configuration, this automation layer, but you're also essentially ensuring that you've got, you can run a multi-vendor network.
That's correct.
How are you?
Multiple data centers can be connected seamlessly, really seamlessly. I mean, I'm telling this from my experience that I had before with other vendors. I was working before Advania, I was working for a global integrator. So I went through a lot of different products based on for the SDN solutions in the data centers. And Apstra is maybe the best choice if you want to go having something nice, easy, and manageable.
So it actually works. Because one of the stories I hear a lot is with SDN controllers is that people spend an awful lot of time keeping the controller running or installed or maintained. And they actually don't have a lot of time left over to do other work because you're also running an NSX, you're running a VMware NSX deployment for the second part of the networking. Is there an integration between the two? What's that like with NSX and Apstra working together?
So our current network is comprised of 3 different key components. One of them is NSXT. The other one is the data center fabric that's running on Apstra. And then we have that traditional MPLS core for our interconnection with other carriers and customers. So the thing that's Apstra giving us in the middle is connectivity between the data centers. We're not touching the MPLS core in that perspective. So we can stretch a VLAN or L3 even through multiple data centers. So Anycast gateway is also there, and it doesn't even hit the core. So the core is there, just a transport network, no configuration there. Right. From the configuration perspective of the NSXT, so Apstra is doing read-only queries to the NSXT manager, where you can see all the VMs, the VLANs, the VDSs, the port groups, and based on that, you can map out your Apstra switches, VLANs, the policies, or whatever you want.
So what you're actually saying there is that you're actually integrating the NSX and the Apstra together. It's not a read write and everything's coming together and mystical magic happens. It's Apstra looks at the NSX configuration and knows what's happening in the overlay and can work to help you with that. Is that right?
Correct. Well, it gives you information. It doesn't do the actual configuration of the NSXT. That's done separately, right?
But it's done in NSX, right? Yeah.
Right. Yep. Yeah. But everything that you configured there on the net, on the segments, on the T1s, the T0, T1, everything is visible in Apstra. I mean, the VMs to which network adapter is connected. Then you can map out that you can even forbid traffic. Of course, that's also possible in the NSXT, but additional security is available for you on the Apstra level. So you can...
Right. So you can actually integrate the microsegmentation policy that you've got from NSX with what's in Apstra. It's not that Apstra is going to configure the NSX, but it's aware of what the NSX configuration looks like and you can see it.
Yeah, and that means a lot to a network, guys. I mean, to see what they're working with. Also, the telemetry of the Apstra is fantastic. It's the telemetry is way better than anything than you're going to use on your NMS.
Mm-hmm.
It's a go-to platform for your insights on your fabric. You can see there everything from the bandwidth to the errors to the dropouts to the notification to even the microbursts are seen there.
So what you're actually saying is your whole underlay is run by Apstra. It's monitoring the cable performance by looking for drops and signal changes on the optical, because it actually watches the optical state of the fiber optic connections to see if they're working. Same for copper, slightly different though, depending on the type of operating system and so forth. But if you want to know, is my spine running at capacity? Is there links in the ECMP, leaf spine architecture that are running too hot? You can find out. It's all just part of Apstra. You don't have to go and find another system to match that.
That's correct. I don't know for copper though, because we don't have anything on copper these days. But yeah, for the fiber, and there is like a really nice graphic on Apstra for your link, for the spine and leaf links. And it's as your throughput as your bandwidth goes high, that visualization of that link goes thicker, So you have all the numbers there running, but when you see in the visual capacity, what's your limits? And that's really nice and really helpful.
Because you know where you are. You like your mean time to innocence, like it's not the network, and you can prove it because you can look at everything and go like, bandwidth's fine, interfaces are up.
It even draws out your entire topology, how your current topology looks like. All the links are there between the spines, the leaves, and the servers. Everything is there, like real lines. You didn't
have to draw it or configure it or
keep it up to date.
So I mean, the only thing that's needed is when you build out your fabric. So you're gonna click and on a lot of stuff, rename a lot of stuff. So that initial setup is a little bit nasty, as in never. So that's like mandatory, never solution, each and every solution. But the nice thing is that the Apstra will gonna build out your entire fabric just based on the LLDP. So that's it. You can plug in your spine and leaf links to whatever port, and don't even put an interface number in Apstra. It's gonna do it for you, and then it's gonna draw you out how your topology looks like.
So Darko, I wanted to ask, whenever you bring in any kind of automation solution, there's a learning curve. It might disrupt the way people are used to working. Was there any friction with you and the team trying to get used to Apstra and this new way of working?
Well, it was on my part, because when we started testing this on POC, it was version 3. We were testing version 3. And Major Apstra gave a lot of changes in version 4. So version 4 is you'll get a separate sections for configuring connectivity, for external templates, route maps, etc., etc. So in that sense, me personally had some.
You were the bottleneck.
Yeah. But for the rest of the guys, it was easy because they don't know anything for the
they're coming in clean. Yes.
They're coming in clean. They're not thinking of all the configuration that's going on under the hood and trying to work out.
So the learning curve is not that steep. It does have, like I said, with every new solution that you came across, it does have a little bit hard time to get around it. But with this, it's not that hard.
So I guess the takeaway is that sort of the intent of my question was like, it sounds like you can get a fairly good time to value, a time to where you're actually using it as opposed to just learning it.
Like I said, from my experience with other vendors, and if you ask me now, I would choose Apstra over any other vendor anytime.
It's really proven that good for you and you've got experience. Like you said, you came from an integrator. So you've actually had experiences on other systems and you're pretty happy with this one.
Well, the bottom line is you don't need an engineer that knows Cisco, Juniper, I don't know, Dell, Huawei, whatever. You don't need that kind of engineer right now in your data center. You need a guy.
Not for everyday work. You only need it when you're making critical change.
Yeah. So you just need a guy that knows to click with a mouse. I mean, it's trivial comparison, but as in a nutshell, it's like that, basically. I mean,
when you're running a managed service provider like Advania is, you don't want to have high quality, highly trained, high priced engineers doing everyday work. You want to have them doing deep work like firewall deployments and rollouts and reviews of structural failure, like root cause analysis and that type of stuff. And as a senior, when I was a senior engineer, I spent way too much time doing scut work, or just configuring VLANs because nobody else could be trusted to do it. And it wasn't fun, right?
No, it wasn't. I mean, like I said, Apstra is doing a sanity check for you. So the human error is, well, minimal. It really is. So you don't have to, I mean, you have to worry about when you get some errors on the fabric itself. And then you're going to need one engineer or senior engineer to t-shoot that. But apart from that, yeah, it's everyday provisioning, and that's it. You just put a good foundations in the first go when you build it, when you're building your fabric, and just template it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that does bring us to the end of our conversation. Darko, thanks for joining us. And if you've piqued people's interest in Apstra and they want to find out more, they can go to juniper.net/packetpushers/Apstra. That's juniper.net/packetpushers.apstra. We'll also have that link in the show notes that accompany this podcast. Again, Darko, thanks for joining us. And thanks to Juniper for being a sponsor. If you like this episode, you can find it and many more fine free technical podcasts and our community blog. It's all at packetpushers.net. Follow us on Twitter. We're at packetpushers. Find us on LinkedIn. Rate us on Apple Podcasts. And last but not least, remember that too much networking would never be enough.